But in other respects, it's not really, because there's a couple of corners which are very, very quick, i.e. the right-hander at the end of that straight, and there's not much room, runoff area, funnily enough, on that. And you're going through there at 160, 70, 80 mile an hour. So if something was to go wrong, you could be in trouble there.
All right, let's go across now to the Paul Ricard circuit and our commentators, Murray Walker and James Hunt.
Races at the beginning of the year. Arnoux on the right of your picture in pole position. Then Prost behind him, Pironi, and then Ligier. And Charrier's car left on the line, but as you can see, it is motoring under its own power. And there are the leaders going into the Verrerie, and now on towards the chicane, and Licol and Saint-Baume, and it is the two Renaults followed by Didier Pironi, then Riccardo Patrese, then Nelson Piquet in the second Brabham BMW that you're looking at now. Behind him is Patrick Tambay, and now they start this long drag shortly down the longest straight in Grand Prix racing, which is over 1.1 miles long.
Yes, and now we're going to have our first chance to see the relative power of the different turbocharged engines. I expect the Brabhams to be particularly fast in the early stages. They were very fast in the warm-up this morning. They say that they're going to make a pit stop. I do hope they do. There's
Arnoux leading, Prost is in second place, Pironi, and it's either Piquet or Patrese. I can't identify here, but definitely René Arnoux, who has had quite the worst motor racing season in his career this year, and last year wasn't much better. And this race, as I said earlier, to him and the entire Renault team is absolutely critical, and it looks like Patrese up into third position, almost one lap completed, 53 to go at the end. They're coming now into Les Pins, then Latour, and that is the left-hander which leads to Pont, the right-hander, over the bridge, and sure enough, the two turbo Renaults are in the lead, and at the end of lap one, it is René Arnoux leading. Prost is second, Patrese is third, Pironi is fourth, Piquet is fifth, Tambay is sixth, Daly is seventh, Giaconelli eighth, and Indy Lauda in ninth position. And Jerry Quarry is the Colbert, who did so well in practice yesterday, coming out with only quarter of an hour to go, and qualifying in 14th position, is in about that place at the moment. So, Alain Prost there that you are looking at now with Arnoux in front of him. Then there is Riccardo Patrese, the man who won at Monaco. But Patrese, of course, in this race is in the turbocharged Brabham BMW four-cylinder engine, now into the straight for the second time, and we will be able to judge whether or not the Brabhams are quicker.
Yes, well, Patrese is pretty well placed. He's got the toe, he's pulled round the Renault. I expect Patrese to go into second place, and the big question now will be whether he's got his turbocharger turned right up and is in fact going to make a pit stop for fuel. The Brabhams have the choice of running with their turbochargers turned well down to conserve fuel and run the whole distance without a stop, or turning their turbochargers up to a lot of boost and making a pit stop. And it's a very interesting calculation, and certainly brings a new dimension to Grand Prix racing, the idea of actually making a planned stop.
Well, now, Piquet is in fourth position, and the Brabhams, of course, have got to get about a 30-40 second lead halfway through the race, which will be lap 27, if they are to be able to beat the turbocharged Renaults and Ferraris behind them, assuming they're all still going. Now, we're coming to the end of lap 2, and Riccardo Patrese is gaining on the leader, and through into third position goes Nelson Piquet. Fourth is Prost, fifth is Pironi, sixth is Patrick Tambay, seventh is Daly, eighth is Giaconelli, ninth is Lauda, 10th is Dickenson, and 11th is John Watson, 12th is Kenny Rosberg. Now, is Riccardo Patrese going to be able to take René Arnoux, the leader, on this, the next second lap, as he did on the first?
Yes, Patrese is perfectly placed now as they come round the right. They've got the left-hander to go through. He's dropped back a little bit there, but no, he's well placed for the toe now. He's going to walk past and into the lead. Another question mark hanging over the Brabhams is that they have had a lot of trouble with their engines in practice here. They had used 3 or 4 engines on Friday, had more engine trouble yesterday, and there goes Riccardo Patrese sweeping past the Renault with the draft. The Renault touched back in again. Arnoux having another nibble back, but Patrese is there, and he's going to pull away now.
Yes, Patrese, of course, we assume, because we've only been told this unofficially, is running on a half load of fuel and is running on very soft tires so that he can come in halfway through, refuel and put on another set of very soft tires. But as I was saying, he needs to build up a lead. Meantime, Theo Fabi, in one of the two turbocharged Tollmans, is out of the French Grand Prix as the leader on lap 3 comes through, and then Salazar off. So we have Fabi out of the race, we have Salazar out of the race, obviously, and through at the end of the lap comes Patrese leading, Arnoux second, Piquet in third position, Prost in fourth, Pironi going comparatively slowly into fifth position ahead of his teammate Patrick Tambay. Seventh is Daly, eighth is Niki Lauda, ninth is Giacomelli, and in 10th position is Andrew Chesney. So Derek Daly very well up in the first 3-litre car, and Riccardo Patrese goes through. Now Arnoux, and I'm going to be putting a stopwatch on the gap between the Brabham BMW and the Renault.
Yes, we're going to have to watch that very carefully, because Patrese needs to pull away really at fully a second a lap if he's going to win this race with a pit stop. But at the moment, as his first lap in the lead, he's pulled a pretty big margin already. And so it looks as if things are going reasonably well to plan for Brabham.
Yes, well, now the question, I suppose, is can Nelson Piquet, who you see in third position, pulling away from Alain Prost there in fourth position and Pironi there in fifth position, catch and pass the second place man, René Arnoux, and we look forward with keen anticipation, to put it very mildly indeed, to the possibility of these Brabhams coming in to make a pit stop. And they were practicing this morning, and from stop to start on a simulated pit stop, they were only taking 15 seconds to change all 4 tires and wheels and top up with fuel. But you have to add to that, of course, the time to slow down and the time to speed up. Well, now, Patrese leading, Arnoux in second place, and with Piquet right on Arnoux's tail, is 3.4 seconds ahead, and Piquet is now, as they come up to the Verrerie, right with René Arnoux in second place.
Yes, it's great to see that rate of progress up. That was a lap and a half it took him to get over the 3-second lead, and that's quite enough. And Piquet is now climbing all over the back of Arnoux. He won't be able to overtake until he gets onto the long straight, but he won't mind that because he's sufficiently well placed to get a very good show for the Renault and to go past.
Nelson Piquet, number 1, the reigning world champion, who, as I have said in the past, decided this year to concentrate on developing the 4-cylinder turbo BMW engine developed from the Formula 2 engine, and it looks as though as they come underneath the banner there, Piquet is going to come out of the slipstream of René Arnoux, and he does so, and we now have Brabham BMWs, the car designed by the brilliant Gordon Murray, in first and second places, and we are on lap 5 in this 54-lap race.
I venture to speculate, possibly here we see again just Piquet. He got a nice good run with the toe behind the Renault. He just slips out, and then he's got the inside line for the very quick corner at the end. The cars are doing something like 200 miles an hour on that straight, the turbocharged cars, as Patrese back here you see going through with quite a big lead. I venture to suggest, though, that Brabham's may be splitting their effort and running Piquet's car with less boost on his turbocharger, and possibly trying to run Piquet the whole distance, and using Patrese as the hare in the pit stop.
Well, the turbos are first, second, third, fourth, fifth and sixth. There are the fifth and sixth. Pironi and number 27, Tambay, is the Ferrari. And there is the leading 3-litre car, that of Derek Daly in the Williams, followed by Niki Lauda, who is 8th, Giacomelli, who is 9th, John Watson, who is 10th, and then the rest of them streaming through. And behind then is Alboreto, then Elio De Angelis. Derek Warwick is in 15th place, and the lead now of the Brabham BMW is most impressive on this 6th lap now. But you see, to confirm what James was saying, Patrese has pulled ahead of René Arnoux in third position, far more than his teammate Nelson Piquet, who is in second place.
Yes, and when Piquet went past Arnoux, he didn't seem to go past with quite the same ease that Patrese had done, and that also makes me think that maybe he's running less smooth. I have to say that it's pure speculation. Brabhams are not really saying very much about what their plans are, and what they do say one cannot necessarily take as read, because of course they don't necessarily want to show their hand to the other team. And but it does look to me as if Piquet is possibly not running in the same configuration.
Well, race order now on lap 6. In fact, coming up to complete lap 6, Riccardo Patrese goes through. There is the gap between himself and Nelson Piquet, and in third position, the gap is 6 seconds now, 6.2 seconds. Arnoux is still third. There is Alain Prost in fourth position. Fifth and sixth coming through the two turbo Ferraris, and Pironi in fifth position, who is leading the World Championship, leads his sixth place teammate Patrick Tambay. Daly there in seventh place. Niki Lauda in eighth position, who doesn't seem to be able to do anything about the Williams. Now in ninth position, Bruno Giacomelli. 10th, John Watson. 11th, Peggy Rosberg. And into the pit goes De Cesaris. Andrea De Cesaris has gone into the pit in the quickest of the two Alfa Romeos in practice, but whether or not he will stay there, of course, remains to be seen. Meantime, down the long East Charles Straight again, with a strong following wind helping them. At over 200 miles an hour go the Brabham BMWs. And there's Patrese. Now into the long right-hander. This is where the G-forces are greatest of all, and you look at the distinctive Alfa Romeo, the V12 of Andrea De Cesaris, car number 22, who finished third at Monaco and sixth in the Canadian Grand Prix. And there's Patrese riding up on the curb a bit. Wants to watch that as he's coming through to complete the lap. Now, it was something like 6 seconds, and we will be able to compare the gap between himself and the leading Renault. Well, the gap between Patrese and Piquet, who is second, is now 6 seconds. And the gap between Patrese, there is Piquet, and the third place man, who is René Arnoux, is over 10 seconds. So Patrese is very, very well on target, as we see fifth place man Pironi, sixth place man Tambay. Patrese is very well on target to come in and change tires and refuel if he wants.
Yes, if he can keep this pace up, he won't even have to hurry about it. It's really a question of whether Piquet is going to make a stop or not, and who can win out of those two, so long as they both keep going. Because there is another advantage of stopping apart from having a light fuel load in the early laps, which makes the cars a lot quicker, and that is, of course, they take the opportunity to put on a fresh set of tyres, and new tyres give that much more grip, so he gets 2 shots with new tyres during the race, and that will give him a little bit more speed over the others.
Well, I dare say some of you are sitting watching this with stopwatches, and you'll be taking your own gaps. And we look at the world champion, the man from Brazil, Nelson Piquet, taking the Courbe de Cygne, the long right-hander, now into the Beausset, which is the corner in Grand Prix racing which has the greatest G-forces of all. And there's Patrese coming. He's slowing right down. Patrese is losing the lead to Piquet. This is sensational, because now on lap 8 in this French Grand Prix, and look, its turbo has caught fire. The turbo at the back of Patrese's BMW is on fire, and he's obviously going to be out.
Oh, what a great shame. Yes, it looks like the engine's eaten the turbocharger. I'm hasten to add that I suspect Patrese doesn't realise the car's on fire at the back, but he's probably doing the best thing by keeping it going, hoping that the draft will blow the flames out. But he's heading round slowly into the pits, and they'll descend upon him. In fact, quite a little blaze going at the back of Patrese's car. But it's a great shame to have lost him.
Well, let's hope he's got his belt undone so that he can leap out of the car quickly, because I think it's going to go up in flames in a very violent way, as Nelson Piquet and Patrese is in front of the pits now. His car is absolutely, I wish you could get a shot of it. There it is. Patrese needs to be out of that car very quickly indeed. It really is burning.
Yes, he's realised it's on fire now. He's getting pretty warm in there. So he's going to get well away.
Riccardo Riccardo Patrese, then the brilliant Italian who won the Monaco Grand Prix. Unfortunately, the Paul Ricard officials are on it straight away. An idiot marshal has just run right across the circuit in front of the cars. But I can tell you now that Piquet is leading. That is one turbo gone, and I don't think he's going to be the last in this French Grand Prix, because this long Mistral straight with its 200-mile-an-hour speed is enormously demanding. And the Brabham BMW team, believe it or not, broke 6 engines in practice, and they are reputed to cost a minimum of £35,000 each, so you can do your own mental arithmetic. Nelson Piquet leads. In second place now then is René Arnoux. In third position is Prost. So the Renault BMW, the Renaults, which should be more reliable than the Brabham BMWs, which after all are in their first season of racing, are in a very strong position. And here is Piquet completing a lap. It's quite possible that the Piquet and Patrese refueling and retire situation was going to be different. There is Prost in third place. Piquet is leading now by just over 5 seconds, and there is an enormous gap before the new fourth place man. There he is. Didier Pironi comes through, and it looks to me as though his teammate in fifth place, Patrick Tambay, is closing up on him as the sixth place man and the leading 3-litre car, Derek Daly, in the winner's stop through, followed by Lauda.
Well, I think we all desperately hope that Nelson Piquet will keep going and won't run into engine problems. I think it must be the hot weather. Brabham, the BMW engine, they've had a little hot, and that's one of the lowest for the tower job.
It's very difficult to tell them apart. I think it's Lees. Yes, it is. It's Jeff Lees, the man who's taken the place of the injured Nigel Mansell, who's still suffering from hand and wrist damage after his crash in Detroit. And Jeff Lees qualified all right after a lot of trouble, but his race is obviously wrong, unless he can get into the pits and change that car, which is very clearly blown. So already Farby out, Patrese out, Salazar out, Lees out.
Yes, the BMW engines were having trouble in practice burning pistons because they were running, the mixture was getting too lean on the long straight, and they were having trouble fixing that. It looks in Patrese's case as if they hadn't cured it, but for all of our sakes, we do want to see Piquet go the distance, or certainly up to the pit stop if it's going to be, because this is a new plan, as I said before, to actually plan to try and win a Grand Prix deliberately with a pit stop. And if this is the way to go, it's certainly going to liven up Grand Prix racing if we get turbocharged cars running a lot of power and making planned stops.
And that was Keke Rosberg you saw dodging about. There he is, Keke Rosberg, trying to fight his way up to get up behind the turbos, and ahead of him is Bruno Giacomelli there in the Alfa Romeo in 7th place now, followed by, it looks like, John Watson, and Jeff Lees is coming into the pits as I talk to you with his rear tire flailing as Derek Daly goes through in 5th place. Niki Lauda is in 6th position, then Bruno Giacomelli in 7th place, followed by John Watson 8th, Keke Rosberg 9th, and there is Michele Alboreto, and you're looking down that battle I've just been talking about. Bruno Giacomelli is in 7th place with Lauda in front of him, with Daly, with Tambay, with Didier Pironi, with Prost, with Arnoux, and with Piquet, who is still leading on this, the 11th lap out of 54, as we look at John Watson, second in the World Championship. Now, is Keke Rosberg going to be able to take him? There is Daly going through the picture, followed by Niki Lauda. Daly's 5th, Lauda is 6th. Now you'll see Giacomelli, and I dare say that Rosberg will try and come out of his slipstream. And he does it. Now, is he going to be able to get through? Piquet has completed the lap. Completed lap 11 in the lead. Nelson Piquet is on his way with another 43 laps to go. And look again at Keke Rosberg passing Giacomelli, and in the process taking 8th place away from the Italian. So at the end of lap 11, Nelson Piquet is leading. René Arnoux is 2nd. Alain Prost is in 3rd position. Didier Pironi is 4th. Patrick Tambay is 5th. Daly is 6th. Then Lauda, Giacomelli, Rosberg and Watson.
Well, the race has developed very much as expected into two classes, and here's the battle with the normally upgraded cars. And
that's Mauro Baldi, the Italian in the Arrows. Mauro Baldi, the European reigning Formula 3 champion, who has gone off, and it looks as though it was quite a big one, but it does look as though Baldi himself is all right, hopefully, although trapped in the car, the firefighting hose is going, and Mauro Baldi then in the Arrows, after a good practice out of the French Grand Prix, joining four other competitors whose race has been run, with Nelson Piquet still in the lead.
Well, Baldi looks as if he's had a really big accident, but he's all right. He's either having a bit of trouble trying to get round the car there. I can't quite work out how he got there and where he's come from.
Yes, don't be confused, incidentally, by the men in crash helmets, because they are marshals, fire marshals, who are wearing crash helmets as protection headgear. Meantime, Nelson Piquet has completed 12 laps, and the gap between himself and René Arnoux is some 9 seconds, as we look down, as you do, and try to work out exactly where the car has gone off. It's gone off at La Tour, which is almost at the end of the lap, just before the bridge turn, where the course turns right and goes over the road, over a heavy concrete bridge. And Mauro Baldi is okay, thank heavens for that. It was obviously a very, very heavy crash, but the Italian seems to be okay.
Yes, you can see how he's got over the barrier, and despite all the tires, the barrier has actually bent back.
Well, it looks to me as though Jochen Mass is there as well. Yes, the man taking his helmet off is Jochen Mass. Now, I've got a feeling, in fact, that we've been looking at two separate crashes that are close, and there is Salazar's car, and I'm guessing, but it looks to me as though Mass and Baldi have got involved, and we've had a flash from the other side of the course that now, on lap 13 out of 54, John Watson in the Barbara McLaren, second place in the World Championship, is stopping, but we will have to get confirmation of that. Meantime, on lap 12, it's Piquet leading by 9 seconds from René Arnoux, with Prost about 3 seconds behind his teammate in third position. Then in fourth place is Didier Pironi in the Ferrari, and fifth Patrick Tambay. Sixth is Derek Daly in the leading 3-litre car. We're looking at the leader, world champion Nelson Piquet, who is on his 14th lap. Well, now the question obviously is, can the Turbo Brabham keep going? It doesn't look good, to be quite honest, for its chances, because as I was saying earlier, they had 6 BMW engines blow in practice, and Nelson Piquet, although he won earlier this year, Nelson Piquet's engine is suspect, and Derek Daly is just gone into the pit. Well, it looks as though it's going to be a race of attrition already, because Derek Daly has gone into the pit, and there he is now. We're seeing exactly what's happening. As we have said many times, they usually change tyres as a precaution, and I would be surprised if the tyres were being changed as early as this.
Yes, they don't appear to be doing anything else on the car. It looks just like a tyre change. I know that they were quite worried about their compound, particularly if the track got very hot, despite the fact that, in fact, there's a good breeze here today, so it's not as hot as it might be, but it looks like just a tyre stop.
Now Watson is coming into the pit as we look at the race leader, Nelson Piquet. Watson into the pit, and John Watson, when he came in, was in 10th position. And if it's tyres, he's on a different nature tyre to Derek Daly, who's on Goodyear tyres. Whereas, if you remember, Derek Daly last weekend at Brands Hatch did exactly the same thing. In the closing stages of the race, he came in and made a very rapid stop and shot out again. There are the two Renaults, and another man who's come into the pits is Jacques Lafitte. There is Mauro Baldi and Jochen Mass. On the right is the Italian Mauro Baldi sitting on the Armco, and then is Jacques Lafitte. Now, we are on lap 15 out of 54. And in a race where driver after driver seems to be coming into the pits for some reason or another, it is Nelson Piquet in the lead by nearly 11 seconds from René Arnoux, who is 3 seconds ahead of Alain Prost. In 4th place is Pironi. 5th is Tombe. 6th is Daly. 7th is Lauda. 8th is Rosberg. In 9th position is Bruno Secondelli, and in 10th place is Michele Alboreto. And the fastest lap so far has been put up by Riccardo Patrese, who is very much, of course, out of the French Grand Prix. Well, we know that Daly and Lafitte have changed all 4 tyres on their car. So there is obviously a very demanding tyre situation with the heat and the speed at Ricard today.
Yes, a lot of the teams were very confused this morning after the race warm-up because conditions on the track seem to have changed.
And that's Derek Warwick coming into the pits. Derek Warwick, who was so brilliant in the British Grand Prix and qualified in 14th place into the pits.
And I suspect the people who are stopping for tyres are actually changing compound and not putting the same compound back on again when they come in. As I say, they were very confused. The track conditions seemed different during both days of practice, and so a lot of teams weren't at all happy. They weren't sure whether to use a soft compound, a hard compound, and I think most teams were starting on relatively hard compounds with a view to changing to a soft one.
Look at that. You just saw there the circuit, and it looks as though the Brabham technicians are already getting ready to refuel Nelson Piquet. But now, whether this is a bluff or whether it's the real thing, we just don't know. But a tape has been laid on the pit road, which leads to the exact point where Nelson Piquet has to stop. And there is 13.4 seconds between Piquet and René Arnoux, who is in 2nd place. And since we are on lap 15, I think that Piquet is not far enough ahead to be certain of being able to change tyres and refuel and get back into the race with a chance of winning. But it's very, very marginal. Well, Derek Warwick has changed all his tyres, and interestingly, some of the Pirelli tyre users are using a brand new tyre, which is actually a dual compound tyre. One side of the tread rubber is harder than the other, and the various teams that use this make of tyre are experimenting to find the best positions of the car. That certainly doesn't apply to Piquet, who's on Goodyear tyres.
That's right, but the Brabham team, meanwhile, will be trying to find out from Goodyear the situation with Daly's tyres, because he's on Goodyear, he's been in and changed. They'll want to know exactly what he was running and why he changed, and that information may help. So there'll be a lot of scurrying about in the pits for those people who have changed, for Brabhams and other teams to see exactly what that they should change to if and when they come in.
Well, meantime, behind the leaders, with Nelson Piquet leading, René Arnoux in second place. Now Lauda is coming into the pits. Well, this is incredible. It looks to me as though tyres are going to win this French Grand Prix in the end, just as much as drivers and cars. And it's significant that Nelson Piquet, who we surmised was on a soft compound, is still driving happily away, and very, very quickly indeed. Derek Warwick has just rejoined the race, having changed his tyres, and on the 17th lap in the 54-lap race, with many cars having retired, with even more having been into change tyres, you're looking at Nelson Piquet closing up on Brian Hinton, who is in the Tyrrell car and who qualified pretty well. And Piquet is now leading René Arnoux by 13.5 seconds. There is Arnoux. Behind Arnoux, there is Prost. And Prost is coming up to take Mark Surer as the race leader. Number 1, Nelson Piquet, closes right up on the Tyrrell, and you will very soon be able to see how much faster the 1.5-litre, 4-cylinder, turbocharged Brabham BMW is than the V8 Cosworth-powered Tyrrell of Brian Hinton. And there is René Arnoux in second place. Prost is third. Surer behind them has been lapped. And it's very interesting, too, that the two Renaults are running right away from the Ferraris of Pironi, who is in 4th place, and Tambay, who is in 5th, because Prost is 15 seconds in 3rd place ahead of Pironi, who is in 4th position. Pironi is 9 seconds ahead of Patrick Tambay, and Patrick Tambay is about 20 seconds ahead of Niki Lauda, who is now the leading 3-litre car, or was until he came into the pits a few moments ago. This, the race leader, Nelson Piquet, on his 18th lap. And yet another car to the pits. There it is, Elio De Angelis, number 11 in the John Player Special.
Yes, seems more activity in the pits than on the track at the moment. Just about all the teams studying and changing. I expect we'll see a routine tyre change. There they go, having to descend on the car. It looks, and they seem just to be changing the rear tyres.
Well, it's very strange, this, because it's not at all clear how all these tyre changes are going. There is Jeff Lees back in the picture, very much so, and he's about to be lapped by Nelson Piquet. Piquet with that beautiful rhythmic style of his. And you will notice that the rear engine cover of Piquet's car, the right-hand pod behind the driver's head, has grown a very distinctive bulge, which is all part of the new technique and the turbocharging and the refueling and retire arrangement. The Brabham, which has now nipped past Jeff Lees and is about to surge through, is fitted with jacks, air pneumatic jacks, which are all part of this new system we hope to be seeing. I say we hope because we still don't know. Brabham has not been telling anybody anything officially, and there is a gigantic bluff situation going on, and it is quite possible that Nelson Piquet has just been driving all the way through this race without a stop. It's quite possible, but I think extremely unlikely. We will know fairly soon, because he is coming up soon to finish his 19th lap, and they're lapping in about 1 minute 30 seconds. Cheever is going into the pits now, and it's the tyre situation doesn't seem to be favouring any one particular make of tyre, because we have had Goodyear tyre users in, we've had Michelin tyre users in, we've had Pirelli tyre users in.
Yes, they were. All the teams were well confused this morning after the warm-up, and there was a fair bit of guessing going on over choice of tyre compound. There didn't seem to be any clear evidence, and it looks like the track conditions have probably changed again, and as if I think the conditions have probably beaten nearly everybody in their guesswork, except, of course, for the front runners, who at the moment seem to be going quite well and comfortably. Piquet is steadily extending that lead into the sort of, he's now getting into the sort of area he needs to make a pit stop. If he stopped now with 15 seconds advantage, obviously he wouldn't get back out in the lead, but with fresh rubber and the ability to go faster than the others, faster than Arnoux, he would stand a good chance of catching him by the end.
And we're looking now at the second place man, René Arnoux, who has quite clearly decided of his own volition, or as a result of instructions from the pits, to let Piquet get on with it. And he is either gambling that the Brabham BMW will blow up, as it repeatedly did in practice, or that the pit stop that we're expecting Piquet, and here he is to have, will take longer than we thought. Well, it would appear that we now have 3 more retirements to join the several I've told you about, because the latest news is that John Watson is out of the race, as we look at Nelson Piquet leading. Keke Rosberg is out of the race in the Williams, and Elio De Angelis is out of the race. And if that is correct, that means that there are at least 9 retirements out of the 26 that started. That's Salazar's car in the background. So, subject to official confirmation, John Watson out, Keke Rosberg out, De Angelis out, and things getting very, very confused from a lap charting point of view, with the number of competitors that have been into the pits and out again for new rubber. And I'm surprised, incidentally, at how far behind the Renaults, and this is the second one, that of René Arnoux, is second place ahead of his teammate Alan Prost. The two Ferraris are. There is Arnoux through, and as I talk to you, Patrick Tambay goes through to start another lap, and Nelson Piquet is now 17.4 seconds ahead of René Arnoux on lap 21. And if, I'm sorry to have to use this word so much, but we simply don't know, Brabham are going to bring Piquet in to refuel and take on new tyres. I don't think Piquet is building up enough of a lead to ensure that he maintains a high position subsequently.
Yes, I think he hasn't got enough of a lead to be sure. I think the situation is very marginal. With a nice smooth pit stop, we could see a very lively race.
Well, we do know that as Piquet goes through to start his 22nd lap, we know from looking down the pit lane from our commentary position that the Brabham crew are out with the petrol hose, with the wheel-changing equipment. The mechanics, those who are concerned, are in their firefighting suits. So the producer, I think, is very wisely staying with Nelson Piquet, and you're going to see something really new in modern Grand Prix racing, a pit stop, and you will no doubt see the lead change, and René Arnoux, that we'll be looking at in a moment, there he is, will undoubtedly go through in the lead to complete the rest of the race non-stop.
The prospect of a pit stop is very exciting, because although Brabham's have approached it very professionally, they've prepared everything, they've put air jacks in the car, they've rehearsed it many times, they've been up to Donington Park and practiced it there, they've practiced it here, but in the heat of the moment and in the anger of the moment, a lot of things can go wrong with a pit stop, and if there's any sort of a panic, once one thing goes wrong, a wheel gets jammed on, you can lose an awful lot of time, so that's a risk they take. But it'll be very interesting to watch their drill, because they're undoubtedly very well drilled, and let's see if they can stick to it.
Lap 22, world champion Nelson Piquet in the Brabham BMW leads René Arnoux by 17 seconds. 3 seconds behind Arnoux is Prost. Fourth is Pironi. In fifth position is Tambay. Sixth is Alboreto, now that Rosberg is out of the race. Seventh is Giacomelli, and in eighth position, Derek Daly. Ninth is Manfred Winkelhock, and in 10th position after a pit stop is Niki Lauda. The Brabham...
Yes, Brabhams have just signalled pumps to Piquet, which probably means that they're telling him to switch on the electric fuel pump, which will be to pick up the remaining strength of what fuel he's got in. They want him to stay out. It's probably just to clean out the tank, push the fuel into a collector pot so that he doesn't get any starvation, which of course will hurt the engine as well if it runs lean, and that has been the problem for BMW at this track.
Yes, and I'm cynical enough also to think that it might be a special signal and for pump, Reed come in for pit stop. I don't know, I'm simply guessing. As James says, it almost invariably means switch on the electric pump. There is Arnoux in second position, and he's still 17.5 seconds behind Piquet. He is ahead, incidentally, of one of the Colemans, Derek Warwick, who has rejoined the race and is ahead of Manfred Winkelhock on the circuit, but I think 1 lap behind him. In fact, Winkelhock is in 11th position, and Piquet has now lapped everybody up to Derek Daly, who is in 9th position. So, as we watch the world champion on lap 23 out of 54 and wonder whether this is going to be the lap when he comes in, he is leading Arnoux. Third is Prost. Fourth is Pironi. Fifth is Tambay. And then Alboreto. Where is Nelson Piquet? He's coming through to complete a lap, and I'm going to watch him very carefully indeed now to see whether that signal did mean come in. Well, he's coming round the right-hander into the finishing straight, and the way he accelerates away, it is quite clear that he is on his way down to the Verrerie in 5th gear at 160 miles an hour as he goes through this left and right. And by the way, Keke Rosberg is back in the race, the man that we had unofficially been told had retired. But of course, he's well down the field. There is Derek Warwick, followed by Winkelhock and Henton. and René Arnoux lapping all of them, as on his serene way goes Nelson Piquet. And if the drama of Riccardo Patrese with his Brabham BMW on lap 7 bursting into flames was thought by some people to be a precedent for Nelson Piquet having trouble, it doesn't look as though that is the case. And Piquet is now closing up on and about to lap number 5, Derek Daly, in the Williams, and Daly is in 9th position. There are 4 laps now to half distance, and there's Piquet smoking. He's in trouble. Piquet, he's off. The second Brabham BMW is out. It has blown, and again we are not going to know whether or not there would have been a pit stop. And on lap 24, Nelson Piquet, thoroughly to prove me wrong, leaves the French Grand Prix rather less dramatically, and there is a replay of it. As he was coming up to pass Derek Daly, I saw that puff of smoke. There it goes from the back of the Brabham BMW, and that must be the 8th engine that has gone in 3 days. What a bill for somebody to pay.
Yes, what a great shame. That really was a great pity to lose Piquet, particularly before half distance where we can see if we got a pit stop. And now the Renaults, that puts the 2 Renaults into a truly dominant position in the race. They're well clear of Pironi and the Ferrari, over 20 seconds. Prost is clear. And so the question now goes as to whether the Renaults are going to be allowed to race each other.
Well, Renault, whilst they have been very unlucky this year, have by and large been lucky in the French Grand Prix. Last year, when the French Grand Prix was at Dijon, it was won by Alain Prost, his first Grand Prix, and 2 years before that, it was won by Jean-Pierre Jabouille, who is now team manager for the Talbot Ligier team. And it looks now as though Renault, having decided to let Brabham BMW get on with it and run their own race at their own pace, are having that decision justified, because René Arnoux, with Niki Lauda a lap behind him because he has been lapped, is now leading on lap 25, which is just a little short of half distance. Lap 27 is the half distance lap, and Arnoux is some 6.4 seconds ahead of his teammate Alain Prost. And unless Renault have unreliability problems, as they have had many times this year, so it is quite possible, it looks as though we are in the running for a Renault first and second, which would be an extremely popular move, because I have imagined somebody in the Renault team having to have a pretty strong interview with the head man of Renault if they had any more trouble in Grand Prix this year, because the nationalised French concern has sunk an enormous amount of money into motorsport, and particularly Formula One. There is Jeff Lees in his first Grand Prix for the John Player Special Team Lotus organisation, as René Arnoux goes through, doubtless to get a signal, saying Piquet out, and there is a much longer gap between, there is Prost in second position, and the gap between Arnoux and Prost is now 9.7 seconds. That's Derek Warwick in the background, and in third position it's Didier Pironi. But Prost in second place is now 18 seconds ahead of Pironi, and Pironi is some 17 seconds ahead of Tombe, who is fourth. Then there's a long gap before Rosberg, now in fifth position, who's fought his way up through the field. Alboreto is sixth, Giacomelli is seventh, Daly is eighth. Piquet was in ninth position, but now out of the race, and that brings Niki Lauda up into ninth place as we look down the long Mistral Straight. We've had news, by the way, that 2 spectators were injured in the crash which involved Jochen Maas in the March and Mauro Baldi in the Arrows. And we look at René Arnoux on lap 26. The next lap is the half-distance lap, and it will now be a very worrying time for Arnoux, for Prost, and for everybody who is connected with Renault, because there is still half the race to run. It is very, very hot here. I have said before, and I have no hesitation in saying again, that the turbos don't like heat, but they haven't got the pressure now that they had, because with both Brabham BMWs out and with the Ferraris surprisingly not offering any real challenge, I think the Renaults will be able to pace themselves. You can see there's Niki Lauda going through. Behind him, a long way behind, is Jeff Lees, and the gap between René Arnoux and Alain Prost is increasing as I talk to you. Derek Warwick is still very much in the running, and there are comparatively few cars left in the race. Indeed, there are 15 cars left, 18 cars left in the race as I talk to you, out of the 26 who started. We look at Alain Prost, second position, number 15, first in South Africa, first in Brazil this year, sixth in the British Grand Prix, and he failed to finish in all the others. That is to say, at Long Beach and San Marino, in Belgium and Monaco, in Detroit and Canada and Holland. And as a result of that, he's only got 19 points, which puts him in the 5th position in the World Championship.
Yes, I think there'll be some very short fingernails in the Renault pit by the end of the race, because with their home Grand Prix, all the eyes of France glued on them, and after this dismal season that they've had team-wise with their reliability, it would be a real tragedy for them if they don't finish here. And of course, the people who have most to lose about any repercussions on that, and people standing in the pits, are now powerless to do anything.
Well, the race seems to be settling down into some sort of a pattern now, with the two Renaults comfortably out in the lead, with the two Ferraris fairly close behind them. I still say that Pironi is looking fairly good. The interesting thing is that the Renaults are on Michelins and the Ferraris are on Goodyear, and if Ferrari have punted for a harder compound tyre, which to me it looks like they have done, they may start to look fairly good later on in the race. If they're on the same compound as the other cars that we've seen come into the pits, well then of course we'll be seeing them visit the pits as well. Interesting to note, before the telecast I mentioned that whilst it was a plastic circuit and was quite wide, the right-hander at the end of the straight, they hadn't allowed a very good run-off area for that corner, and of course that was the very corner that Jochen Massa's car went off and ended up in the spectator area, and one only hopes that the spectators are only slightly injured. I think that this is a lesson to be learnt by all track or circuit owners, that the runoff areas, with these cars getting quicker and quicker as they are, the runoff areas have to be increased. But in any case, things are hotting up back at Ricard, and I'll return you back to James Hunt and Murray Walker.
As they watch Alain Prost going through, no signal to Prost either. While the Renaults are leading from the front, they are controlling the race from the front, and unless they have trouble, we are seeing even this early in the race the finishing order, because there is the third place man, Pironi, followed, although albeit a lap behind, by more than a lap behind. Derek Warwick is now 3 laps behind Didier Pironi, who is in third place, and Pironi in turn is 18 seconds behind the second place man, Alain Prost, which is this man here, number 15 in the Renault, some 580 brake horsepower from its 1.5-litre V6 turbocharged engine, and it looks as though Renaults are on their way to their 10th Grand Prix win. 2 of them, Jean-Pierre Jabouille, 5 of them from Alain Prost, 2 of them from René Arnoux, who is leading now on lap 29. Well, will the heat claim the Turbo Renaults? They come here a lot, of course, to the Paul Ricard circuit for race testing between races, although it is quite a long way from their Paris headquarters at Viry-Châtillon. But, and that's Giacomelli's car, Bruno Giacomelli, who was in, it's De Cesaris, I'm sorry, it's De Cesaris' car, and we knew beforehand De Cesaris was out.
Yes, the other front wheel pointing at a very strange angle then, whether that had just detached itself or whether it was encouraged against some solid object. It looked to me as if actually as if it had come off of its own accord or come askew and the car just stopped.
Here is the race leader. He is on his 30th lap, and let me tell you about the people who are no longer left in the Grand Prix as we look at the V12 Talbot Ligiers of Jacques Lafitte on Eddie Cheever, or we did, because we are now back again with Alain Prost, who is in second place. Well, Teo Fabi in the Tolman is out. Salazar is out. Patrese, with that very dramatic bursting into flames on the straight past the grandstand, is out on lap 7. Jeff Lees has been into the pits and has rejoined. Mauro Baldi involved in a crash with Jochen Maas, both out, both okay. John Watson out, De Angelis out. Nelson Piquet, who was leading, as was his teammate Ricardo Patrese, is out, and Andrea De Cesaris is out, which means to say that on lap 30, with René Arnoux leading, it is Prost second, Pironi third, Tombe fourth, Rosberg fifth, and Giacomelli is in sixth position. Lauda is in seventh place, and Brian Hinton will be in ninth position ahead of Manfred Winkelhock in 10th place. Let us now consider what the World Championship situation will be. And now we see what Pironi's ploy and that of Ferrari may well be. Because neither Alain Prost nor René Arnoux are in as commanding a position as Didier Pironi is, and there is the race leader, René Arnoux, on his 31st lap. Didier Pironi, who is in third position, is in the running for 4 points to add to the 35 that he already has. John Watson has long since disappeared from the French Grand Prix. Niki Lauda, who is currently in third position in the World Championship, is not even in the points, and Alain Prost is in the running for 6 points. So it looks as though if the positions are maintained as they are now, Alain Prost will move up. Didier Pironi, and how fortuitous that we should look at him, because there he is, will increase his World Championship lead to some 39 points, which will put him 9 ahead of John Watson, who is not going to score in this French Grand Prix of 1982. And Pironi in the Turbo Ferrari 1.5-litre car has still, like all the rest of the competitors that are going, in this very considerable heat, at this very considerable speed down the Mistral straight, got a long, long way to go, and he's pulling out to pass Lafitte now in the Turbo Ligier, and they have had an absolutely disastrous practice since the new JS19 was introduced at Monaco. Nothing has gone right for the Talbot team, and they qualified very well down in the warm-up this morning. They were 25th and 26th fastest, that's to say Jacques Lafitte and Eddie Cheever. And as a matter of interest, it is Eddie Cheever who is following Didier Pironi and not Jacques Lafitte, although Jacques Lafitte is just behind Cheever, so they're very close together. So there is the Ferrari, the car which was introduced in turbocharged form at San Marino in 1980. He goes through to complete a lap with Cheever in his wheel track and Lafitte. Now the thing that does surprise me actually is that Cheever is holding on to Pironi as well as he has. Now Pironi is pulling away a bit. They go through this right and left at La Verrerie, believe it or not, at some 160 miles an hour. And there's a very distinctive stab of flame from the turbo of Pironi's car. I really am wondering if all is well, because he's not pulling away from Jacques Lafitte as quickly as I thought he would. Indeed, he's not pulling away at all.
Yes, but they do spit flame normally, but you're quite right, Mark. It seems to be spitting a bit more fire than usual. And we'll see how he goes down the long straight now. If we get another look, go back to him, because the turbos have been immensely faster than the normally aspirated cars on the straights here. They're running close to 20 miles an hour faster on top speed, and of course that's a big difference on a long straight such as we have here.
Well, we're on lap 32. We are with the leader, René Arnoux, who is 13 seconds now ahead of Alain Prost, who is 17 seconds ahead of Pironi. But the real interest at the present moment is not so much Arnoux, nor even Prost, but whether Pironi is going to come through ahead of Eddie Cheever at the end of this lap. And I'm looking across the course as you look at the Renault to see where there is Arnoux leading, and Prost has gone through. And Pironi is still ahead of Cheever, and I'm going to watch the Ferrari and listen to the engine note very carefully as he goes past. Well, he's gone past me. It sounds a bit rough, and I know that Pironi was very unhappy with his Ferrari in the warm-up period. He was complaining about handling. They had to change a turbo on Pironi's Ferrari after the warm-up period and before the race began. And these turbo cars, which are still in the process of development, can be very temperamental. There, Prost 13 seconds behind Arnoux, and Pironi 18 seconds behind Prost, and 19 seconds ahead of Tambay, who is 24 seconds ahead of Rosberg, who is 4 seconds ahead of Michele Alboreto. So once again, the gifted Italian Michele Alboreto is the 3-litre unsponsored Tyrrell, and it's a source of amazement to me how nobody has come forward to sponsor the Tyrrell team with all their experience and with Michele Alboreto. But Alboreto is once again showing what a fine driver he is after his 3rd place at San Marino and his 4th in Brazil and Long Beach. And that is René Arnoux completing another lap. And that lap that he has just completed is his 33rd lap. And the gap between René Arnoux and Alain Prost is now 14 seconds. There is Prost, there is Arnoux, I'm sorry, number 16, who is the man from Magny-Cours. He is 34 years old. And it's, well, the gap between Prost and Pironi is now 18 seconds. Pironi has pulled well away from Eddie Cheever, and I think my concern was a false alarm about the Ferrari. Lap 34. Arnoux, Prost the second, Pironi third, Tambay fourth, so it's turbos first, second, third and fourth. The 2 turbo Renaults first and second. There is the 3rd place turbo Ferrari of number 28, Didier Pironi, the Frenchman who lives in Paris. There is Alain Prost. No, it's René Arnoux, I'm sorry, René Arnoux there, the race leader. And behind Pironi, still, as I said, Tambay 4th. Keke Rosberg is 25 seconds behind Tambay. And the gap between the only real fight on the circuit as Arnoux goes through to complete yet another lap. The only fight on the circuit, really, is that between Rosberg and Alboreto for 5th position. And Giacomelli, who is in 8th position, is coming into the pit. Well, a tyre change for Bruno Giacomelli, I expect. There it is. There is the V12 Alfa Romeo of the Italian driver Bruno Giacomelli, and the gap between the race leader, René Arnoux, and Didier Pironi in 3rd position is now 33 seconds. And out goes Bruno Giacomelli. Prost with Lauda right up behind him. Now, Prost is in 2nd place. Niki Lauda is in 9th position and a lap behind the Renault. So it looks to me as though Niki Lauda is trying to unlap himself. And whether or not Prost is going to let him do it, as we look at 3rd place man Didier Pironi, remains to be seen. Race leader, that's Arnoux. He's on his 35th lap now. And very, very steady. René Arnoux seems to have everything thoroughly under control. He has blotted his copybook twice this year by spinning off and not being able to restart the engine of his car. Well, he's keeping it going beautifully this year, and really all he has got to do now is to drive round because he has such a lead over Prost, who has such a lead over Pironi, that really the race has to be in the bag for the French if he can just keep going. And he's now 18 seconds ahead of Alain Prost. And Alboreto is actually closing up on Keke Rosberg, who is in 5th position.
Just another fine drive from Alboreto. He's come quietly through the field, he's worked his way up, and he is closing up the challenge on Rosberg for the leadership of the Class B race, which is, of course, the normally aspirated cars, which are failing completely to live with the more powerful turbocharged cars on this power circuit. But Alboreto has really come on very well this year. He's still very young indeed, and he's done a fantastic job for Tyrrell. When the car's been good, he's really delivered the goods. He's driven steadily. He hasn't made mistakes. He hasn't shown any serious Italianness, any chance to get overexcited. And we've just flashed from Pironi, and now we're having a look at Arnoux wending his way quietly onwards. He's pulled steadily away from his teammate Alain Prost, and as Murray just said, it's really only a matter now of keeping the whole thing together and just cruising to the finish line. Great shame that the race has got a bit processional now, because it was such an exciting prospect at the start, with the two Brabhams potentially making pit stops, and they were, although they were running away from the field on their own, they were impressive just for their sheer speed and domination of the race. And although Brabham's having a little bit of trouble with the engines at the moment, BMW seem to have put at least as much power together as any of the other turbocharging engine designers, and Brabham's, of course, with Gordon Murray, has, as usual, delivered a truly excellent chassis. And I think that the Brabham BMW is already becoming the car to beat, certainly for speed.
Well, it's significant that we are now over half distance, because if the turbo cars have trouble, I think it is fair to say that they normally have it in the first half of the race, and it really does look as though, as we look at Alain Prost in 2nd place, still with Niki Lauda very close behind him, and therefore Prost presumably taking things comparatively easy, because he is so much faster if he wants to be on the long straight. There is Pironi in 3rd place. I was saying that if the turbos have trouble, they usually have it in the first half of the race, although not exclusively. And since we're well through half distance, it's a fair guess that the turbos are likely to go the rest of the race. You will notice I'm using phrases like a fair guess and words like likely, because nothing can be certain. And it still remains extremely hot. We had temperatures of 45 degrees in the pit lane yesterday, and you can imagine what that does to highly stressed turbocharged engines and, of course, to the tires. But it seems a bit cooler today. There's a much higher wind blowing, the Mistral wind, which is so famous here at the Paul Ricard circuit near Marseille. And René Arnoux has now completed 37 laps in this 54-lap race, as we wait for his teammates Alain Prost to come through, and I'm going to take the gap between Prost and Pironi this time and see whether there's any change there.
They say the suicide rate goes up when the Mistral blows, and I have to tell you, sitting here in our commentary position, I'm certainly well agitated. Although it's a roaring hot day, we're in the shade and the wind is whistling round, and I'm actually quite cold sitting here, and I think you are, Murray, with no shirt on.
Well, there goes Pironi past in 3rd position. Yeah, I made a wrong decision today, definitely.
It's a pity we can't get Murray on camera. He's looking particularly fetching today.
Alain Prost, 2nd place. And, well, Niki Lauda can't get past Prost, and Prost either can't or won't get away from Lauda. As we look at Pironi moving through on the inside to take Jeff Lees, who is still motoring well, having changed his tyres. And we've had an enormous number of people into the pits, of course. Indeed, at the present moment, we have only got we've got 6 people on the same lap now, which include, actually, Keke Rosberg, who must therefore have unlapped himself. And he is in 5th position, with Michele Alboreto in 6th place. Patrick Tambay, who we have seen virtually nothing of, is in 4th place in the Ferrari. So Turbo Renault leads Arnoux, Turbo Renault 2nd, Prost, Turbo Ferrari 3rd, Pironi, Turbo Ferrari 5th, Torbay. Then the leading 3-litre car, Keke Rosberg Williams. 5th, 6th is Michele Alboreto in the Tyrrell, and 7th is Derek Daly. And there is Keke Rosberg.
Yes.
Going to be a very close thing, and I think Alboreto is going to be in a close position to challenge for 5th place before very much longer. Indeed, they're coming into the start and finish straight now, and the gap is less, it's just about a car's length, but you can see it for yourself now. There is Keke Rosberg, the Finnish driver, who had pole position for the British Grand Prix, started from the back of the grid when he couldn't start his engine, cruel luck last Sunday, and now he's actually pulling away a bit from Alboreto.
Yes, Alboreto certainly giving it rock all. They hear him bouncing his engine a little bit on the limiter as he went past us, which isn't very good for the engines. There's no real need to take them. They have a rev limiter, which stops the engine being over revved if some sort of mistake or a gear is missed, and it just cuts out the ignition when it reaches a certain rev band. The problem is that if you hit that limiter while you're going up through the gears, the engine doesn't run smooth, it vibrates a lot, and it really isn't very good for them. But a surprisingly high number of drivers still seem content to bounce their engine on the limiter. I just listened, I didn't look to see who it was going past, I just heard another Cosworth being bounced on the limiter, as we say, as he went past the pit. It's not good for him.
Yes, and here is Rosberg, chased by Alboreto. Incidentally, you saw Jacques Lafitte in the pits there, and Jacques has been in and out of the pits all race, and he's the oldest man in the race, 38 years old. He must be well choked off with the Talbot Ligier, because ever since the JS19 was introduced, reputedly designed by his brother-in-law, Jean-Pierre Jabouet, nothing has gone right, and he's having an absolutely dreadful season. Jacques Lafitte, who did so well last year because he was in 4th position in the World Championship last year and in 1980. And there is Alboreto, and there you see, incidentally, that engine cover, or you did, I hope, that I was talking about. And this is the battle for 5th position between, in the white and green Saudia Williams car, Keke Rosberg, and this time Michele Alboreto is a little bit closer in terms of time. He is 0.91 seconds behind Keke Rosberg as they go up to the Verrerie, the left and the right. This is very, very bumpy indeed. You can see the back of the car kick up past Salazar's broken 80S car into the chicane. This is a second gear bend. Now into L'École, another left-hander, round the Saint-Baume, up into 3rd gear. Then, as they come out of the apex here, they change up in very shortly, about 10,000 RPM. Now into 4th gear. And Alain Prost and Niki Lauda in, respectively, 2nd and 8th positions with a full lap between them, go through. There's Prost. And number 8 is Niki Lauda, the winner of the British Grand Prix, the world champion of 1975 and 1977, right back on top of his previous brilliant form, and see the way he is hounding Alain Prost in 2nd place. But I don't suppose for one moment that the Frenchman, there is René Arnoux leading, I don't suppose the Frenchman Alain Prost in 2nd place will let Niki Lauda's harassing tactics rattle him for one moment. He's very, very steady-headed, is Alain Prost, under pressure, and he will be running his own race.
Yes, a bit frustrating for Niki Lauda following Prost, because he'd like, if he could lap faster, he'd like to get past and get on with his own race. But of course, unless Prost actually helps him past, it's virtually impossible for him to pass the Turbo Renault because of its superior power advantage. So Niki is in a little bit of a dilemma there.
Lap 41, Arnoux leads by 21 seconds. Prost 2nd, Pironi 3rd, Torbay 4th, Rosberg 5th. Alboreto is in 6th position, and that's the battle you're looking at now. And by the way, Bruno Giacomelli, who was in 10th place, has got ahead of Brian Henson, who was 9th. As the battle between Prost and Lauda, albeit with a lap between them, continues to rage after this man, René Arnoux, in the lead. And Pironi goes through in 3rd position. We've heard that Patrick Tambay may be in trouble in the second of the two Ferraris in fourth place, in which case the leading Cosworth car, which is possibly in the running for its 150th Grand Prix victory today, will move up a place. The leader there, René Arnoux, and sure enough, still Patrick Tambay has not come through, and Didier Pironi... Yes, there's definitely something wrong with Tambay's car. He's going quickly, but he's definitely sounding very rough.
Yes, I think it sounds just like a little misfire. It's really a question of whether it's worse at different points on the circuit. I would imagine, just listening to it, that he's probably not down on very much power. Engine just running a bit messily, but that doesn't necessarily take a lot of power off it.
He's 28 seconds, by the way, now Tambay behind his teammate, the third-place man, World Championship leader Didier Pironi. And on lap 43 now, in this 54-lap race, only 11 laps to go, including the one they are on. René Arnoux leads, crossed by 21 seconds, with Pironi 17 seconds behind the second Renault. Tambay, that gap I was telling you about, in fourth position. Rosberg fifth, just ahead of Michele Alboreto sixth. And then Derek Daly, a lap behind the leader, is in seventh place. Lauda eighth, Giacomelli ninth, Hinton 10th, Winkelhock in 11th place, and Mark Surer 12th. We've just seen a board go out from the Williams team with light, L-I-G-H-T written on it, and it's a mystery to us. We've seen all sorts of pictures. No, look at that one. That's Pironi in third place, by the way.
Yes, that's a new one on me, apart from when it's raining and it starts to rain, bits can remind the drivers to turn on their tail lights. But in this weather, I wouldn't have thought that was entirely necessary, so I'm completely flummoxed.
Well, I hardly expect them to be expecting Rosberg to distract Alboreto behind him. Alboreto will have his attention well and truly fixed on the rear of the Williams, because he is very, very close to it. Race leader René Arnoux coming up to complete lap 43. And now the pressure is really building on the 34-year-old Frenchman in his 59th Grand Prix. 14 pole positions behind him. He is well away now, on his way to his third victory in his career, because Arnoux's won twice. He's had 4 second places, 2 third places, 61 points in his career. This man who started off, like so many of today's Grand Prix drivers, racing karts before he went to Formula Renault and then Formula 5000. And it was John Surtees, the only man ever to have won the motorcycle and car world championships, as we wait now for Alain Prost, there he is, to come through second place, who gave René Arnoux his Formula 1 chance after he had failed in the Martini team. And Arnoux very much captured the imagination of the Formula 1 fraternity in the Surtees car, and was then given a drive by Renault in preference, ironically enough, to this man, Didier Pironi, who, having won Le Mans for Renault, was bypassed. Subsequently, he got his Formula 1 chance with Tyrrell, and then Talbot, Ligier, and now Ferrari. And he's leading the World Championship, number 28, Didier Pironi, having already this year won at San Marino, won at Holland, been second at Monaco, and there is the race leader, René Arnoux. Well, it is not an exciting Grand Prix at the moment. You can see that the gap between Arnoux and second place man Alain Prost is increasing. I noted, by the way, that the gap between Prost in second place and Pironi in third, as we look at Keke Rosberg, the leading 3-litre car driver, who is in fifth position, goes past the cameras. I noticed that the gap between Pironi and Prost was decreasing. And Well, Prost has actually got a bit of a misfire as he goes past, and Pironi is definitely gaining on him. And it's significant that Lauda is hanging on. The gap between Prost, who is second, and Pironi, who is third, was 18 seconds. It is now down to just over 15 seconds, and there are still 9 laps to go. We might have a change for second place if Prost is indeed in trouble. But on the 45th lap in this 54-lap race, it is still Arnoux very much in command. Prost in second place, and a question mark over whether he'll be able to keep it as we look at Michele Alboreto, who is in 6th position. Here is the 5th place man, Keke Rosberg. And the question is Tambay in trouble in the Ferrari, because he's dropping back?
Welcome back to the French Grand Prix with about 8 laps to go. Arnoux very comfortably in the lead. Prost still behind him. Pironi in 3rd place, apparently catching up Prost very slowly. Tambay in 4th with a slight misfire, and Keke Rosberg in 5th, but having a hard time staying there because Alboreto's giving him a hard time, although he has pulled away a little bit since Murray Walker told us that he was given a signal with lights on it. Maybe that was to say wake up. But nevertheless, if he can stay there, he'll consolidate his World Championship position. And of course, if Pironi even finishes in the place where he is now in 3rd, that'll give him 4 points and help him on his way to being World Champion this year. I now return you back to James Hunt and Murray Walker at Paul Ricard.
Points for second place, because Prost at the present moment is in 5th position in the World Championship. He is ahead of Keke Rosberg in this race, who leads him in the championship. He is ahead of Niki Lauda in this race, who leads him in the championship. And John Watson is out of the race, and he's in 2nd place in the championship. So we're going to watch the gap now between Arnoux and Prost. But with Pironi here closing up on Prost, if Arnoux takes any notice of that signal, and our guess is the correct guess, we could be having a very exciting finish to the French Grand Prix. After all, here is the leader.
Yes, well, if Arnoux is going to slow down and let Prost win, he must wait till the last lap of the race, or very close to it, to make sure that he doesn't get involved with Pironi, if Pironi can close in on Prost. And of course, if there's any danger of Pironi being anywhere there at the finish, then the manoeuvre will have to be forgotten about.
Well, the gap continues to rage between the 4th and 5th place. Now, I've got the watch running on René Arnoux there. The gap between himself and Alain Prost was 23 seconds. The gap between Prost and Pironi was 16 seconds. It is now about 15 seconds since Arnoux went through. Prost is approaching me as you look at René Arnoux, the race leader. The gap between Arnoux and Prost is 22.4 seconds. And I've now got the difference running between Prost that you're looking at, being chased by Niki Lauda, who is a lap behind him in 8th position. And I've got the watch running on Pironi, and the gap between Prost and Pironi is 17 seconds. So there is little difference. The relative positions are being maintained on this, the 47th lap, with 7 laps to go, including the one that they're on, and with the prospect of Renault's finishing 1st and 2nd, and that distinctive stab of flame from the turbo behind Didier Pironi's head. Number 28, World Championship leader, in 3rd position, and there is Bruno Giacomelli back into the race.
Tambay has just gone past, sounding very rough. His engine seems to have sickened for the worse, but he's still soldiering on, albeit at a bit reduced pace.
By the way, Jeff Lees, that you just saw briefly, number 12 in the black and gold Don Player Special, is in 12th position in his first race for the team, albeit over a lap now, 2 laps behind the race leader, and here is the race leader completing another lap. Start the watch again, see what the gap is, because it's going to be very significant. But that pit signal has not been repeated. And Alain Prost is maintaining his position. He's coming as Arnoux goes down towards Saint-Baume. The gap between Prost is 21.7 seconds. and I look across as you look at the race leader, and now we look down the course for the second of the two Renaults, that of Alain Prost. And as you will see the yellow and white Renault come into sight, Pironi goes past me. The gap remains at 18 seconds, so it looks as though the finishing order, barring trouble, for the French Grand Prix is very much set. Patrick Tambay is dropping back in fourth position all the time, but he is still 31 seconds ahead of Rosberg, who is in fifth position, and Rosberg is about a second ahead of Alboreto, who doesn't seem to be able to catch the Finnish driver in the Williams.
That's right, he's been sitting on his tail about a second behind him for quite a long time now, and doesn't seem to be able to get that little extra bit of zip that would get him up on the tail and get him in a position to tow past. So that battle seems to have reached a relative stalemate, but let's hope in the very closing laps it might warm up again.
Well, the one thing of interest I can tell you is that Rosberg, who is in fifth position, followed by Alboreto 1 second later, is certainly gaining hand over fist on Tambay. The gap between Tambay, who is fourth, and Rosberg, who is fifth, has come down to 20 seconds now, but they are not gaining, albeit quickly enough to make any difference to the Frenchman's fourth position, I think. And Tambay will be very happy because obviously he has to give preference to Pironi, quite apart from the fact that his fellow Frenchman is well ahead of him in any case, because Pironi is leading the World Championship. But Patrick Tambay is, after all, only in his third Grand Prix for Ferrari since he came back into Formula One. He finished 8th in Holland, and he finished third last Sunday in the British Grand Prix, and it looks as though he's going to be up into the points again. This is Alain Prost, so lap 49 now. Arnoux leads, 21 seconds. Prost is second. Pironi is third. Tambay is fourth. Rosberg is fifth. Alboreto is sixth. Daly is seventh, having been lapped. Lauda is eighth. Giacomelli is ninth. Henton is 10th. Winkelhoff is 11th, another lap back, and then Lees is 12th.
Thinking about the championship, Murray, it is in fact very important for Renault that Arnoux does slow down and give way to Prost to give him 9 points if he can, because if Prost picks up 9 points today, we've got a really wide open championship situation. Prost at the moment has 19 points, but that'll take him up to 28 if he can pick up the 9 today, and although Pironi, if he finishes where he is, will extend his lead a little bit, the Renault form, if they can finish races, has been such that one would have to say that they are the best turbo car at the moment, but bearing in mind that the Brabham seems to be the quickest. But if Renault can settle down and Prost can start winning from now on in, he will could easily pick up the points difference in the championship and really open it out. Pironi looks to be cruising, but he won't like Prost getting 9.
Yes, and of course we have a number of Grand Prix coming up which very much suit the turbos, because the next one is the German Grand Prix. This is the race leader, René Arnoux, and Hockenheim is very quick. The one after that is Austria, which is also very quick. Then there is the Dijon-Crenois circuit for the Swiss Grand Prix in France, believe it or not, and that is also very quick. So Renault could be coming up with a wet sail.
Yes, they're all...
Second place, there is the third position man, Didier Pironi, lap 50 now out of 54. Lap 50, Didier Pironi, World Championship leader. He has 35 points compared with John Watson's 30 points. Watson is out of this race. If Pironi gets the 4 points for third position, which he's in the running for now, it will give him 39 points. And we still have this question of which of the two Renaults, assuming they finish first and second, is going to finish first. Because soon, Arnoux, if he has had orders to give precedence to Prost, is going to bitterly have to bite the bullet and back off and let his teammates catch up and pass him. Bitter gall indeed, because René Arnoux, like any racing driver, is a proud man, and no one likes deliberately to have to slow down and let someone else win for political, albeit practical as well, reasons. But that's team orders, And the prestige of winning the French Grand Prix, irrespective of whether it is Prost or Arnoux, who is currently leading, is absolutely vital to Renault.
Yes, particularly frustrating for Arnoux because he really has had a lot of bad luck this year. He's had a lot of car failures. He's been running in the lead a lot. And quite honestly, he's worked for and deserves a win. And when he finally gets one, as it were, has to then hand it over, it's particularly galling. However, above all, racing drivers, Murray says, are proud people, and he can still go home having certainly morally won the race, and that's very important to him, I'm sure.
Yes, René Arnoux was leading at Monaco when he spun off on the approach to La Racecasse with a pretty secure lead and couldn't restart his car. He was also leading in Canada. By the way, Alboreto in sixth place is getting much closer to Rosberg.
Yes, that's the closest we've seen him for some time, and let's hope that this is a last-ditch challenge from Alboreto to try and fight away past Rosberg. He's been looking for quite a while, but he's definitely got a bit of spark back into himself for the last few laps.
No discredit to the Williams team, but it's a wonderful performance by the very, very much under-financed and unsponsored Tyrrell team, because the Williams team are able to go and test all over the country, all over Europe, before each Grand Prix, whereas Tyrrell are not, and they really have got Alboreto's car going beautifully.
Yes, but despite that engine cover and the extra 300 revs supposedly on the straight, it seems to me, just looking at them, as if Rosberg's got a bit of an advantage straight. Now, this is where Alboreto has to get close to Rosberg, and this is where he seems to have had difficulty. He's dropped right back, just at the point that he needs to get right up Rosberg's gearbox. You see now the guy out on the left-hander, out onto the straight, and Alboreto is really too far back to get a good tow, I think, but we'll have a look at them as they come up the straight.
Yes, and down this straight, the turbocharged car, Patrick Tambay was doing 210 miles an hour yesterday in practice at the end of this straight, and the fastest 3-litre car, which was Keke Rosberg, the leader of these two, was doing about 190, so that's how much quicker the turbos are, and Keke Rosberg definitely pulls away from Alboreto there.
Yes, he pulls away down the straight and down those corners at the bottom end of the circuit, which is just where, because Alboreto seems to be a good bit quicker through this section that we're looking at now. Through the twisty infield, you see he's closing right back up on Rosberg, but of course it's coming onto the main straight, or coming onto the straight past the pits are the two real passing opportunities, but Rosberg's got plenty of daylight to be comfortable for this lap.
Lap 52, and that signal has again been given to René Arnoux. He is on his 52nd lap. He's just coming through to complete it as the battle for fifth continues.
I wonder what's going through René Arnoux's mind at the moment. I imagine he's thinking, do I dare or don't I dare? Do I dare pretend I didn't see it? How can I explain to them that I misunderstood him when I get in? For sure he's thinking of every possible way.
Yes, and he's now on his 53rd lap, which is the last lap but one, and the gap between himself and Prost is increasing, actually. It's 19.4 seconds. And Alain Prost has now been given the board for the first time. So Arnoux will know that he's supposed to be slowing up, and Alain Prost will know that he's supposed to be winning. And it's got to happen this lap or the next lap, and the gap between Prost and Pironi, who is in third place, is 20 seconds now. So, on lap 53 out of 54, the question is, who of the two Renault drivers is going to win? Arnoux leads, Prost is second, Pironi is third, Tambay is fourth, Rosberg is fifth, just ahead of Alboreto, who is sixth. A lap behind, Daly seventh, Lauda eighth, Giacomelli ninth, Henson 10th, Winkelhock 11th, and Jeff Lees is in 12th place, and Derek Warwick is still going in 15th position, 4 laps behind the leader. This is the battle for fifth, Rosberg and number 3 there, Michele Alboreto. Are we going to see a dramatic last lap with René Arnoux making a very obvious and deliberate move and slowing down as if to say, I could have won, but I was not allowed to. Well, Gerard Larousse, the Renault team Pegg and Jean Sarge, the team manager, are both sitting very ominously down the board. So there's an official on the line giving a 1 lap to go signal, and he's giving the signal now to Alain Prost, who is coming out of the last right-hander into the finishing straight, and I'm going to give you the gap. Is Arnoux going to slow down? No, it doesn't look like it. It's 19 seconds as Prost goes through, and you are looking at the French Grand Prix race leader on the last lap, René Arnoux. Is he going to win his 3rd Grand Prix, or is Prost going to win his 6th? Here is Prost.
Well, a terrible thing to happen to Arnoux, and really, the outcome of this, if Arnoux doesn't stop, there's going to be terrible repercussions within the team. But they've had their fair share of ups and downs this year, a lot of aggravation because, as we discussed earlier, they haven't been finishing races, and now a situation like this is really more than they need.
Well, Arnoux is going to have to make his peace with the management, and I think it would be very difficult for him to do so, because he has had so much trouble this year that they wanted Prost to win, as James has been saying, for that vital 9 points. Well, there he is. He's well on his way on the last lap now. Patrick Tambay is through in 4th position, and Keke Rosberg is still ahead of Alboreto.
I think if he is going to slow down, he'll do it right at the end, just to underline the fact that he's getting awfully near the end of the lap now.
Well, I can see him. He's into the last left-hander. He's approaching the last right-hander. He's not going to slow down because the checkered flag is out now. And René Arnoux, to the cheers of the French crowd, wins the French Grand Prix. But are Jean Sarge and Gerard Larousse going to be amongst the applauding crowd? Well, here is Prost, Alain Prost, coming up to finish in 2nd place. And I'll give you the gap there, although it's going to be of academic interest, because definitely René Arnoux has won by 17.2 seconds. It is a famous victory at last for Renault, who have broken their jinx at, of all places, the French Grand Prix, with a superb 1st and 2nd places after both the Brabham BMWs of Riccardo Patrese and Nelson Piquet went out of the race when each of them had been leading. Didier Pironi finishes in 3rd place. There he is, and has extended his World Championship lead over John Watson. René Arnoux waving a casual hand, and he must be thinking curiously. And here is Derek Daly, who will be in 7th place, a lap behind.
Yes, I think René Arnoux better enjoy his slowing down lap, because it might not be quite such fun when he gets back. He'll probably take it as slowly as he can.
Can I have a word with you in my office on Monday morning, René? Maybe somebody's statement.